2 weeks in a row. What? 2 weeks in a row? We are building consistency here on Free Advice Friday. Hey, everyone, welcome. Looking forward to spending some time with you today and looking forward to answering all of your voiceover business and marketing questions on this live stream for Free Advice Friday. Every week, I like to start out the show with something worth talking about, something that I've learned, something that might be helpful for you. And I just read this morning a very interesting article on LinkedIn that I wanted to dig into because I think some of the information in this article is going to be particularly helpful for those of you who are using the platform. And I am someone who is a very big fan of LinkedIn, and it's become one of my primary social media platforms that I'm using. So obviously, I'm always on the lookout for how I can do better on LinkedIn. So the article that I read came from Buffer. Buffer is a scheduling service, social media platform scheduling service that you can use. And they did some research into trying to determine what is the ultimate LinkedIn posting strategy if you are trying to generate the most reach. So Buffer had a data scientist who dug into over 2 million posts on LinkedIn from over 94,000 LinkedIn accounts. So not a small sample size by any stretch of the imagination. And what they found was that going from 1 post a week to 2 to 5 posts per week, in their words, was like flipping a switch. Once you get into that range where you're posting 2 to 5 times weekly, they discovered over and over and over again that LinkedIn distributes content from these accounts more widely. And so they are rewarding you for showing up and being consistent. Basically, the algorithm recognizes anybody that's posting 2 to 5 times per week as an active user. And so they start giving your content better distribution. And just to give you a general idea of what this looks like, and again, I'm just quoting some stats from this study. If you're posting 2 to 5 times per week, it can mean an additional 1,182 more impressions per post. That is not a small number. And a 0.23 percentage point lift in engagement rate compared to just posting once per week. So making a very strong case for being on LinkedIn multiple times per week. Now, for those of you who are hardcore and dedicated, and I am not one of those people who is this hardcore and dedicated, if you post 11 plus times per week, the lift is incredibly dramatic. Apparently up to 17,000 more impressions per post, 3x engagement. This is crazy. Now, I'm guessing that most of you are not going to be in that category of posting 11 plus times per week on LinkedIn. Although I guess if you want to be a LinkedIn influencer, it's worth considering. But I do think that posting 2 to 4 times or 2 to 5 times per week on LinkedIn is completely reasonable. I think that's completely doable. Here's the other thing that's really interesting about this, because some of you are going to be listening to this information and you're going to say, well, my LinkedIn is really small. I don't have a very large network. What they found was that if you are consistent with your posting strategy, then the size of your network doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you've got 500 followers or if you've got 50,000 followers. If you are showing up consistently, you will be rewarded and you will see an increase in your reach consistently over time. Now, the other thing that they gave us a little bit of a breakdown on from this study, which I thought was really helpful, text posts are the simplest way to show up. Obviously, anybody can sit down and write a text post on LinkedIn, but they have the lowest engagement consistently. If you are sharing a post with an image, there's a big step up, about 72% more engagement on a post with an image. Video is even better. With video, up to 84% more engagement over a straight text post. And then, of course, that's outperforming images as well. Carousels are the big winner. They picked up 278% more engagement than videos, 303% more than images, and nearly 600% more than a text post. So that's something to think about. If you're trying to figure out what is your LinkedIn strategy going to look like, keep in mind that text posts are going to be at the bottom of the barrel. So if you can incorporate images, video, or if you can come up with ways to incorporate carousels and PDF documents, That's going to get you the most reach. And no surprise, but the one exception here is posts with links. Consistently across the board, those posts perform the worst. And that actually makes a lot of sense that those posts are performing the worst because LinkedIn's whole objective is keeping people on the platform, right? They want people to stay on the platform. And so if you are posting content that is linking people off the platform, LinkedIn is obviously not going to give that the same level of organic reach. And so that's something to keep in mind when you're coming up with your posting strategies as well. But I thought this was particularly interesting, and I think it rings true because I know that when I stepped up my posting, I've been trying to consistently show up 3 times a week. And I did see a pretty significant increase in the amount of reach that I was getting on average just from that consistency of showing up 3 times a week. And, at the very least, trying to maintain that 2 posts per week level. So something to think about if you are a LinkedIn user and you are looking to level up your game. Ask yourself, how can I show up at least twice a week? And that may make a big difference in how many accounts you are reaching and the success level that you are ultimately going to find on LinkedIn. So this, of course, is Free Advice Friday. I am here to answer your voiceover business and marketing questions. That is the whole point of the live stream. So I always like to have something to start out with while I'm giving people an opportunity to sign in and get some comments popping up in the chat here. If you have a question that you would like to ask and get answered, it's very simple. Post it in the comments. That's it. Post it in the comments, put a Q beside it. It stands out a little bit easier for me to find in the chat, but I am here to answer as many questions as I can for the next little while on Free Advice Friday. Let's go to Tony, who's got the first question. How much do you focus on training now? Now that you've reached a certain point, how often are you training with a coach, if ever? Thanks. Tony, I'm going to give you an honest answer to that. Not enough. I'm not doing it enough. I have the good fortune, because of my position with the podcast, of having a lot of incredible guests on my show. And so, for example, this week's episode that just came out, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, Kelly Moscinski, who is a casting director, been a casting director or working in the casting space for nearly 2 decades. I had her on the podcast. That episode came out this week. I had the chance to ask her all of the questions that I wanted to be able to ask. And knowing that the questions that I'm thinking about are probably the questions that other voice actors are thinking about as well. And so, to a degree, every time I get to have an amazing guest on the podcast, I feel like I'm getting a coaching session because I get to ask the questions that I want to get answered. I felt the same way when I had Tina Marasco on the show, and I was able to ask her some very direct questions about casting and the audition process and how to make your audition stand out. I felt that way when I had Everett Oliver on the show, when I've had Dave Walsh on the show. Every time Jay Michael comes on the show, I learn something from him. And so having the opportunity to have amazing people on the show, sometimes I feel like I'm getting mini coaching sessions, and then obviously having the good fortune of being able to share those with the rest of my audience as well. But one-on-one coaching, it's been a minute since I've done that. However, it is something that I have been looking at and trying to figure out who is the right fit for where I am going next. So the last lengthy, dedicated coaching session that I went through was actually through 2022 and 2023, over the span of a year. I was coaching with Tom Pinto twice a month almost for almost an entire year. That was the last like full-blown immersive coaching experience that I've gone through. I've had some one-off conversations with some coaches since then. You know, obviously, when I go to an event like a VO Atlanta or a Mavo, I'm there to be a speaker, but I am just as happy to be there as a student and sitting in on some of the sessions and learning. I'm always taking notes and learning things as well. But yeah, I definitely think that I'm probably not coaching as much as I should be. Tab, thanks for showing up on time. How nice of you to actually show up on time. I really do appreciate it. I like to tease her. It's okay. It's an inside thing. Again, if you have a question for Free Advice Friday you'd like to ask and get answered, I'm certainly happy to answer as many questions as I can. Patricia says, I get a lot of invitations to different workshops, courses, conferences, etc. How do you determine which things to invest in? Filter it through the lens of your goals. What are you ultimately trying to achieve? So one of the things that you will find in this industry is that there is no shortage of learning opportunities. And a lot of those learning opportunities are really, really good learning opportunities with really great people, really reputable people, people who are experts in their various and assorted areas, niches, genres, fields, whatnot. But not every one of those is going to serve some of the goals that you're working towards right now. And so that's one of the things that I would be looking at. What are the most important goals to me right now? Could I take a coaching session in promo or video games or audiobooks or whatever? Yeah, there's 1,000 different opportunities with people that I know, people that I like, people that I trust, people that I think are incredibly reputable. But I'm not interested in those things right now. I'm interested in documentary right now. So I want to look for the opportunities in the documentary space, and I want to filter the decisions that I make through the lens of, is this getting me closer to the documentary space? I work a lot in e-learning. And so I'm going to look and filter a lot of things through the lens of e-learning. Is this going to help me with my e-learning work right now? And so I think that's one of the ways that you narrow things down. I think with conferences, the other side of it is, are the people that you would love to be able to get in front of going to be at this conference, and will it give you the opportunity to get in front of them? And I don't specifically mean, are you going to get to run into them in the hallway and have an hour-long conversation with them, or, you're going to pull up beside them at the bar. I'm saying, are they doing an X session at VO Atlanta, or are they teaching a breakout session at Mavo, or, name the event, One Voice, That's Voiceover, whatever. Can you get in the room with them and have the opportunity to learn from them? Because there's an ROI factor here as well. If you're going to spend money on a coaching session, you're probably easily going to spend $200 to $300 for an hour-long coaching session. Whereas if you could buy a conference ticket for a couple $100 and you could get in front of 6 or 8 different coaches that you would really like to have an opportunity to work with, yeah, it's not going to be a private one-on-one, but there's still value to be drawn from the sessions that they're doing at these conferences and the opportunities to learn. And so, that's something else that I'm looking at as well. Where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Where am I going to get the greatest ROI potential? Those are some of the questions that I'm asking when I'm trying to make some of those decisions. So again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. If you have a question that you would like to ask and get answered, this is your opportunity to do that. Feel free to type it into the comments. Put a Q beside it. It pops up on the screen, and I am just going to sit here and hang out and answer as many questions as I can for a little while. By the way, I mentioned the episode with Kelly Moscinski. It was so good. It was so good. I've had a lot of very positive feedback on that episode already. It is available on the YouTube channel. So if you want to go and check it out on the YouTube channel, it's also available wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. So Apple, Spotify, Podbean, all those different places. It is absolutely worth taking an hour and giving that one a listen. You are going to learn some things that are going to help you to audition better. Bob says, I struggle with LinkedIn posting because I worry about not all my posts being professional. How do they know that you're not crossing that line from Facebook type posts to what should be on LinkedIn? This is a really interesting question, Bob, and I'm glad you brought it up, because one of the things that I love about LinkedIn right now is that it is not Facebook yet. Every once in a while, I see stuff where it feels like people are trying to turn it into Facebook, where I feel like I see a post and I'm like, okay, come on, like that doesn't belong here. So the lens that I am looking through when I am creating content for LinkedIn is, does this tie to work and professional life in some way? So here's a really great example of that. I'm going to bring up a post here, and I'm going to show you one of the ways that I did this. So the boo went to school this past week. She's had her first day of school, her first week of school. And I was struggling with that a little bit because I miss having her in the office every day. And I miss having her, pop in for random hugs and all of that sort of stuff. And so I had posted a post on Facebook that was more of a personal kind of a post, but I really felt like a kid going to school, to the first day of school, that is something that is relevant and that is going to resonate with everyone. So if I just shared that picture, that's one thing. But it's how you tell the story. Sometimes that's the difference between, is this a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post? It's how you tell the story. So here's the post that I wrote. First day of JK for the boo, and I don't know who was more anxious, her or daddy. She's heading off into the unknown, something new, something challenging, but also something exciting. Daddy, on the other hand, will just miss having her around the office all day, right? So I'm tying it back to work. She's been a fixture in my workday for years. Maybe I wasn't ready for that to change. The girl will be a force one day. She already is brave, independent, possibly more stubborn than her dad, too smart for her own good at her age. I'm going to be a veterinarian, Daddy. If you ever lose your job, it's okay. You can scrub the bathrooms in my clinic. That is a direct quote, just to be clear, from her. In a few years, I'll be helping her fill out her LinkedIn profile before she opens that clinic. What a blessing it will be to show her this picture or this post and remind her where the journey began. Cherish every moment and never stop your kids from busting in on your workday. One day you'll miss it when they can't. I wrote that from the perspective of a working dad working from home whose kid's always been there, and now his kid's not going to be there anymore. And this post did exactly what I thought it would do. It resonated with a lot of people. So look at this. We got 268 reactions, 55 comments, over 4,800 impressions on that post. And so I think that's the trick, Bob, is filtering it through the lens of your professional life over your personal life. Because I think there's absolutely crossover between your personal life and your professional life. I post pictures of my kids all the time. But when I post pictures of my kids, I tie it back to a story about work somehow, or a lesson that I've learned that's helped me in my professional life somehow. And so I think that's where you find that balance. And I hope that makes sense, Bob. And if you want to clarify that anymore, feel free to type it in the comments there. I have to tell you guys, I actually thought that the boo was going to be able to make an appearance on Free Advice Friday today because she has her first PD day. I'm like, really? She's only been going to school for a week and she's already got a PD day? So she had the day off. So I thought, oh, perfect. She'll be here. She can pop in on the live stream. But then her and mommy went shopping, and the bean, the three of them went shopping. And so now she's not going to be here. Bev says, hey, Mark, what are your thoughts on Alignable? I can't believe that it still exists. That is my thoughts on Alignable. Honestly, I did not know that it still existed. Years ago, I remember getting emails, like tons and tons of emails from people, join me on Alignable, join me on Alignable. And I said it back then, Alignable was just trying to be a different version of LinkedIn, but it didn't really have a value proposition. I guess it was trying to kind of be like a local LinkedIn, but LinkedIn could be a local LinkedIn. And so I never really understood what the value proposition of it was. And so I never bothered with it. I mean, I signed up for the account initially just to kind of check it out and see what it was all about, but nobody was there. There was nothing happening. And so I stopped using Alignable a long, long time ago. I genuinely did not know that it still existed. So I don't know that I can actually make any kind of intelligent assessment of it at this point, other than I'm surprised that it's still there. So what else do you guys want to talk about? What other questions can I answer for you on Free Advice Friday? Don't be shy. You're basically here for a free coaching session. It's kind of what it looks like. I have been in coaching sessions all morning. It's been a busy morning. I got another coaching session when this session is done. But here you are getting it for free live on the internet. That's the glory of YouTube and the internet. So what do you guys want to talk about? What questions can I answer for you? Been having fun with this marketing challenge, getting people to participate in this marketing challenge, getting people to show up consistently and do the thing as part of this marketing challenge. Those of you that are doing it, I hope that you feel like you are drawing the value from it and showing up every day and doing the thing. It's been really good for me too. I have been showing up every day and doing the thing. I've been participating in the marketing challenge right along with everybody else, making sure that I do it. Admittedly, I don't always get it done in the morning. Mornings are busy trying to get kids to school. And then days are usually pretty full because I'm booked sometimes. I mean, I'm already booked into October, booking into October at this point. But I mean, the one night I sat down at like 11:30 at night and completed the challenge just because I was committed to completing the challenge. And I keep telling everybody else to get past your own excuses. And I can't tell you to get past your own excuses unless I'm going to get past my own excuses. And so I have been getting past my own excuses, showing up and doing the thing every single day right along with you. So day 12 today. Again, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the comments. If you put a Q beside it before you type it, it just helps it to pop out in the chat once the chat gets going. But I am here to answer as many questions as I can. Bev has another one. She says, if you want to reach out to a client that hired you once a few years ago, what research would you do before contacting them again? I would be looking at just confirming that they're still there, first and foremost, which is easy enough to figure out. Quick pop over to their LinkedIn profile to confirm that they're still there. And I would look for something recently that they've worked on. Time has an interesting way of passing when you have a client relationship. And I think we get nervous sometimes because it's like, oh, it's been like 2 years since I worked with this person or whatever. I don't think anybody actually has a clue. And I don't think anybody's going to go back in their emails to try to figure it out either. And so I literally will just pop in and I write these types of emails myself, and I will literally just pop in and be like, hey, Bob, saw the most recent project that you did for such and such, and it turned out fantastic. Just want to say great job. Hope you and the team are doing well. Just letting you know I'm still here if you need anything or whatever. I don't make any reference to, we worked on a job 3 years ago, or the last time I reached out to you was in 2021 or whatever, because if you just do it casually like that, they're going to know that time passed, but it's going to feel like it was a minute. Like it was going to feel like it was a week ago. Maybe that's just something that happens when you get older. Everything feels like it was a week ago, even though my wife tells me I have no concept of time because I say things like, yeah, just the other day, 3 years ago. Some of you will relate to that statement. But yeah, that's it. I would just be confirming, are they still there? And look for something that you can comment on to spark the conversation again. And by the way, if they're not still there, then it becomes an additional exercise, because now I want to figure out, where did they go? And wherever they went, does that place, or could that place potentially use me as a voice actor? So now I want to try to find a new contact email address so I can reach out to them and talk to them about where they're at now. And I want to figure out, did somebody replace them? Who's the person that replaced them? Because then I want to reach out to that person as well and just say, hey, I used to work with so-and-so or whatever, and I see that you're in their role now or whatever. I send emails like that all the time too, when I realize that, when I make the connection that, oh, this person's moved on or they're in a new company or whatever. Hey, Mark, I hope this question hasn't been asked before. How important is it to have a social media presence before reaching out to a potential client through direct marketing? I don't think that having a social media presence is important as having a web presence in general. So I do think that it is important to have a website. Think about how you make decisions. So before you buy a product, or before you engage with the service, or before you hire someone to do a job for you, what do? We Google them. And we look them up to try to find their website, or maybe we're looking them up to try to find some reviews. We're just trying to figure out, is this person legit? What are people saying? Can I get a sense of them? The type of work that they do, whatever, right? We Google everything. Well, maybe now we're getting to a point where we ChatGPT everything, or maybe you're a Gen Zer and you TikTok or YouTube search everything, right? There's generational differences there. But the point is, we're looking people up before we're making decisions. And if you're direct marketing, people are probably going to do the same thing with you. Can it be to your advantage to have a social media presence? Of course, I think it can always be to your advantage to have a social media presence. Would I say that it is necessary before you can start direct marketing? Absolutely not. I think the only thing that is necessary before you start direct marketing is that you have a website, that website has your demos, that your demos are easily playable, that they are downloadable, and that the website tells me enough about you and the type of work that you do that it can help me to make an informed decision about whether or not I might be interested in ultimately working with you one day. Cameron says, yeah, the interview with Kelly this week was awesome. Yeah, she held nothing back in that interview. She gave away all the secrets, and she loves doing it. And you could tell that she loves doing it. I obviously the podcast is intended to be an audio podcast, or at least that's the way it started as an audio podcast. But if you watch the YouTube version of the podcast, you can see in her face the joy that she gets from sharing the information that she's sharing and from helping voice actors in the way that she was helping us through that interview. Like, you can literally see it in her. And I make that comment a couple of times. I could tell by just even before I finished asking a question, and you could see on her face, what her answer was going to be. Just so much joy for what she does. Really, really fantastic interview. And I'm glad that she agreed to come on the show. What's the balance between being creative and personal with subject lines and intros with follow-up emails versus efficiency and volume? I try to be creative because I know that in a lot of instances, the subject line is literally going to be the deciding factor. Some people are going to make a decision, am I going to open this email or not, based on what you write there. Not everyone, but some. And so keeping that in mind, I want to try to have a creative subject line that will compel them to open. But I do not want to have a clickbaity subject line. I don't want to mislead them or trick them in any way, because I think if you do that, it's going to make an impression on them. If you have some sort of a clickbaity headline, or you use some sort of trickery to convince them to open the email, but then the body of the email doesn't deliver, then you just made a really bad impression, and it doesn't matter that they opened the email. And so I will tell you that when I can't come up with something fun or creative, I will often just default to blatantly obvious. Professional male voice actor. Sometimes I use that subject line and it works. And the thing about a subject line like that is that there's nothing to hide at that point. So if they're opening the email, they know exactly what they're getting, and they're obviously interested in some level because they opened the email. And then it's just up to, do my demos deliver? Or was the email that I wrote good enough? Don't overthink the subject line too much. I think there are some themes that you can lean into. And I do have a subject line guide that I have available at VOpreneur.com that dives into this a little bit deeper, but curiosity can work sometimes. Actually, I try to lean into curiosity a lot. Vanity, playing to someone's vanity in a way that makes them want to open up an email. Humor can work. I think you got to get the right person when you're using humor. I also think you have to be funny. There's nothing more unfunny than somebody who is not funny trying to be funny and then writing a really bad subject line as a result of it. But this is also something that I would say definitely don't overthink, but also test. If you've got a couple of subject lines, send 25 emails with one, 25 emails with the other, and see, does one generate more clicks? Does one generate more responses? And then when you figure out, okay, this one seemed to generate more responses. Okay, what was it about that subject line that caused it to generate more responses? Was it because it was fun? Was it because it was creative? Was it because it was direct? And so then you start to analyze the data a little bit. I've been experimenting with newsletters, but because I'm not a coach, I can't really offer a purchasable product directly. Should I convert to a blog instead to add more SEO? I definitely think there's higher value in the SEO. And I think if you're writing good blogs that are answering specific questions, I think there is GEO value in that as well, which is the generative engine optimization. That's where you get into the AI chatbots. That's where ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Perplexity or, whatever, name the LLM, where they start quoting your content. And so I think there's massive value in writing blogs. I think there's huge SEO value there. But the other thing that's really nice about a blog, and I'll tell you, this is one of the things when I used to blog consistently as a coach back in the day, I was inspired by all of the questions that I was getting asked, because what that allowed me to do was it allowed me to scale my time. So what I mean by that is I would have a certain percentage of people on any given week who would email me asking the same handful of questions. And I used to have to answer that question over and over and over again, writing an email over and over and over again to answer every one of those questions. And so finally, I got to a point where I started writing blogs that addressed those specific questions. So now I was getting SEO value because some people just go to Google and type their question. But then I was also getting value because when a voice actor reached out to ask me that question, I could say, hey, I got a really detailed answer to that question. I think it'll give you everything you need to know. Just check out this blog. That was a huge time saver. I do that now with the podcast. I'm not blogging anymore, but I'm podcasting. I'd say probably 6 out of 10 times, maybe 7 out of 10 times, when a voice actor sends me a question now that they would like me to answer for them, I've got a podcast. Now, granted, I'm 317 episodes in, so hopefully I have a podcast. But in a lot of instances, I have a podcast that I can now refer them to and say, hey, this podcast is going to answer your question, everything that you would want to know on that subject line, or that subject matter, rather. And so, does the world need another newsletter? I am not a fan of newsletters unless it can add specific value. I do not send a newsletter that says, hey, here's what I'm doing, and hey, here's what I've worked on, and here's my latest project. I just don't think anybody cares. I really don't think anybody cares. I would rather have a resource that adds value in some way. Now, can you write a blog that answers a specific question? And then could you send that blog out to your client list and send an excerpt of it? Here's the question. Here's part of the answer. Here's a link if you want to read more. You could do that maybe, because now you're adding value, because you're answering the common questions that you're getting asked. And I mean, I recognize not every blog is going to be like that. Sometimes you are going to write a blog about a project you've worked on, or a great experience you've had on a set, or in a session, or whatever. And that's all good too. There's nothing wrong with that. But where you can answer specific questions and add some value, I think that's ultimately where you're going to benefit on the SEO side, and ultimately one day on the GEO side. Does Nimble allow you to have a fill tag in a subject line? I haven't thought about that before. Hey, client, have you seen the Detroit Tigers lately? You can, yes, you can include merge tags. You can include merge tags in subject lines, or at least you always used to be able to. Test it. Every time I write a letter, an email in Nimble, whether it's a group message or whatever, once it's written, I always send myself a test of it anyway, just to make sure. I love Nimble, but man, sometimes it does some wonky things with the formatting on emails. And so I always like to send a test anyway, just to make sure that everything is appearing the way that it's supposed to, that there's no odd spacing or anything like that. So you could absolutely put a merge tag into the subject line and then just send yourself a test message just to confirm that it works. Follow up. How do I get these questions? Well, I'm guessing that if you stopped and honestly thought about it for a few minutes, you could probably come up with 5 or 10 questions that you've already been asked. And I know you're building your business at this point, and so you don't have an extensive client list or whatever, but I'm guessing there's a certain number of questions that you've already been asked. Some of them are just the same questions that we're all getting asked. How do you come up with your rate? What does it look like to do a directed session? What does it mean to have Source Connect? What's your turnaround time? It's some of those FAQ type things, but you just expand on those a little bit in a blog. And I think some of those would give you enough content to at least get you started. I tried to add value. This week I talked about how many people may feel uncertain and unsafe in the current climate. I gave examples of ways actors and producers traveling to be safe. There's value in there. There's value in there. Is it relevant to every one of your clients, though? And see, this is what it comes back to. And not everything that we send is going to be relevant to every person that we send it to, obviously. But I am trying to filter everything through that lens. Is this going to make my client, if I send this email to my client, are they going to be glad that they read this email, or are they going to be like, there's 5 minutes of my life I'm not getting back? And I'm not saying that your email did that, Tab. I'm just saying that's the lens that I filter things through. That's the question that I'm always asking before I send any of these types of emails. And so I always want to make sure that as much as possible, I'm sending information to them that I think would be really useful for them. So great example of that. In the marketing challenge this week, one of the days, the challenge was to find something of value that you could send out to some of your clients. And that could look like a lot of different things. It could be a book recommendation. It could be a podcast that you've recently listened to. It could be a YouTube video that you came across that you thought might be really helpful. Or, there's a lot of different ways, blogs, articles, all that sort of stuff. So I found an article for e-learning prospects that I've been nurturing relationships with. And that article, which was written by an e-learning professional, actually talked about using AI voices, synthetic voices in e-learning, and it presented some really valid arguments for and against using those voices. I think, and maybe I'm biased, but I think ultimately if you read that article, you would recognize, yes, there are some advantages to using synthetic voices, but the cost of that outweighs the benefits. And so my hope is that it would encourage them to actually want to use a human voice. And so I thought that was a really interesting article that instructional designers would find really interesting, because no doubt any instructional designer that's creating content right now is having this debate either internally with themselves or, with their company or whatever. And so I sent that article out. Just a simple, hey, I came across this and thought this might be really helpful for you. Shared a couple of quick quotes from the article so that if they didn't want to read it, it's, the TLDR thing, right? But that's how I add value. That was really easy to do. Took me 5 minutes to do that. I need to be able to find out how to define who does what, but currently only 15 people are subbed to the newsletter, so not much segmentation to do yet. Even right now, being able to segment by genre would be helpful. There are certain things that I'm going to send to all of my clients or to all of my prospects, but there's also going to be dedicated content that I'm only going to send to commercial, content that I'm only going to send to e-learning, content that I'm only going to send to documentary. And so even just segmenting, getting that level of segmentation, I think could be really helpful. Patricia says, how to reply to a potential client who says they're not able to consider VO talent until post-production, but they appreciate you sharing your demo. They're not able to, hang on, I got to read this again. They're not able to consider VO talent until post-production. Okay, well, then I would just say, well, I appreciate that. And when you get into the post-production on your next project, certainly keep me in mind, and I would be more than happy to submit a free custom audition for you when the time is appropriate. I think that would be it. It'd be that simple. Or I'd probably go a step further and say, when you get your next project into the post-production phase and you're ready to start considering voice actors, please keep me in mind. And even if I'm not a right fit for the project, I would be certainly happy to help you find someone who is. And that might be another way that you can add value. All right. Good stuff today, guys. What else do you want to talk about? Don't forget, Voiceover Marketing Playbook is coming out in a couple of weeks, October 7th to the 15th. If you head over to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com, you can sign up for the waitlist. You'll get the 10 marketing habits of top VOs. Helpful little guide. And that will put you on the Playbook waitlist. So you'll be the first to be notified when Playbook is available for purchase. This is going to be the final opportunity to sign up for Playbook in 2025. If you are looking to level up your marketing game, definitely something that you're going to want to keep in mind. So again, October 7th to the 15th for Voiceover Marketing Playbook. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to share it with you. I have been having so much fun doing these marketing challenges and really just getting me excited about some of this stuff again. Some of you have heard the story. I sent out an email about it. I took a lot of time off this summer. I just felt like I was burning out. I felt like I'd been burning the candle at every end for too long, and I just needed a break. And so having the ability to just kind of disconnect from everything for a little while was fantastic. A little extra time with family and kids, which was really great. But then also recognizing that if I do not do something intentional to end that season, I will stay in that season. And as much as I like to think about, semi-retirement, for example, I am certainly not in a position to be semi-retired at this point. So the marketing challenge was designed to get me back to work as well. And it's been so much fun seeing how it's helped so many people. But if you are not feeling confident with your marketing, if you are doing the marketing challenge right now and thinking, I understand this on a basic level, but I really wish I understood it on a deeper level, Playbook can help you to understand that. I want to know why you think your puppy video didn't do well on socials. It crapped out completely. Here's what I have learned about the internet. I know nothing about the internet. I posted one of my docuShorts on YouTube. I think it was one that was 2 weeks ago that I thought was okay, but it wasn't my best one. I didn't think it was my best one. And it's got 14,000 views on it now, which means that it is my best performing short by an extremely wide margin. And so I was like, woo, I got 14,000 views on a video. This is crazy. I'm finally starting to build some momentum. And I was getting all excited because the video that came out on Tuesday, I was like, if they thought that video was good, the video that comes out on Tuesday is one of the best ones that I've done yet. And I was so excited for that video to come out, thinking I've finally built momentum. The algorithm's finally starting to figure out my audience. We're finally going to start to get something going here. And this video that's coming out on Tuesday is going to be amazing. And then it did nothing. And I was so sad, like legitimately sad, because I was like, this was one of my best ones yet. How could people not watch this video? And so the more that I try to understand some of this, the more that I realize that I don't understand any of this at all. And so I just keep showing up consistently. The same thing where I had one of my videos recently that did nothing on YouTube, but it got over 10,000 views on TikTok. And most of my videos on TikTok get 200 or 300 views at the most. But then I just have this one random video that gets over 10,000. And then, the next 3 videos that I shared after that, nothing. Nobody cares. I'm just like, it's so random. I have tried to analyze the data to look for clues. And I mean that seriously. I have tried to analyze data. I have downloaded all of the raw analytic data from my YouTube channel and put it into ChatGPT and said, help me find clues, help me find patterns, help me figure this out. And there's no rhyme or reason to it sometimes. It literally feels like there is no rhyme or reason to it sometimes. But people hate puppies, apparently. That was my worst performing video, I think, that I've ever shared on my YouTube channel, that puppy video. Still blows my mind. Still blows my mind. Welcome, Robert, checking in from South Florida. How do you manage to tell agents you're taking a break and not feel like you're missing an opportunity or clients? Because I didn't care. No, not true. I just needed a break. And so I just sent them an email and just said, hey, I'm booking out from such and such a date to such and such a date. I will be unavailable. And they all just said, okay. Did I miss some auditions? Yeah, probably. Was I sweating it? No, because that was the whole point. The whole point was to go away and not do anything. And so I didn't stress about it. And since I've been back, my agents have been sending me auditions and I've been submitting my auditions and I've been feeling better about submitting those auditions. And so ultimately my plan worked. Ali says, I enjoyed watching your documentary videos on the socials, wondering where you find the videos to go along with your narration. I like the puppy video too. I have a subscription to Envato. The Envato Marketplace, I believe, is what it's called. If you go to Envato here, I have a subscription. And that gets me access to tons of stuff. So I get stock video. I can get stock photos. I can all of my audio I source from here as well. So the music tracks that I'm using. So I don't actually remember what I paid for this, but it's given me everything that I need. So that's where I've been able to go to get all of my video, all of my audio, some of the stock photos and stuff like that I use. So that is that's the tool that I am using to put together those docuShorts. Storyblocks is another example of a place where you could go. Adobe stock, or whatever it's called, but Adobe has a stock library that you can subscribe to, although I think it's quite a bit more money. But yeah, I've been doing it all through Envato and having fun with it as well. Patricia says, I find the marketing challenges very helpful, energizing, and I value learning from others in the forum. I think that's also been really fun for me too, is seeing how other people interpret it and seeing how other people are executing on it. And I think there's something to learn from everyone. And even for me, there's things for me to learn. And I mean, obviously the people who are taking this challenge are people who are following me because I am a marketing coach, and some of them I've coached with personally. Many of them have taken courses that I've done and stuff like that. But hey, when you're putting out a prompt to that many people, it stands to reason there's going to be some different interpretations of that. And it's been really fun to see how different people have approached different aspects of the challenge, and just seeing some of the fun content that people are creating as a result of it as well, which has been really great. Any recommendations on what we should focus on for the last quarter of 2025? I think right now, just be ready to audition your face off. The casting directors that I've talked to have said that things are picking up. I'm not seeing a ton of evidence of that yet with my agents, but they say that things are starting to pick up. And so I think that we'll probably go through a little bit of a busy stretch here, September, October. Obviously, after November, it's probably going to slow down a little bit. But then the other thing that I've also seen in the past sometimes is when we start coming up to the end of the year, companies that have maybe put projects on hold want to get those projects done because they want to spend the budget money. Because everybody knows, well, maybe not everybody knows, but if you've ever been in corporate before, you know that if the budget doesn't get spent by the end of the year, guess what? You're not getting as much budget next year when you ask. And so I've seen that before too, where at the end of the year, there's a last minute push to get some projects completed and use up the money before it's gone, so to speak. And so that's a possibility as well. All right, let's see. Tab says, it's wild how different lying. It's wild how different lying, same videos will perform based on each platform. I know she was trying to say differently, but I'm going to put it up here and tease her a little bit because why not? So yes, it is very wild how different lying, same videos respond. So I now have a sheet that I'm using where I post videos on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And usually about once a week, I will go back and just check all of my accounts just to kind of get numbers. And I'll write down the numbers. You know, this one's got this many views, this one's got this many views, whatever. I've had a 10,000 view video on TikTok. I've had a 10,000 plus video on YouTube. I have had one video that got like 4,000 or something like that on Instagram. And there was never a correlation. So the video that got 10,000 plus on YouTube didn't really do all that great on some of the other channels. And the video that got 10,000 plus on TikTok didn't really do that great on some of the other channels. And so then I'm analyzing the content. Like, is it the type of content? Is it because it was about space, or was it because it was about barbecue, or was it because it was about ancient history or whatever? And I can't even really find a correlation there either. And so there's part of that that's incredibly frustrating. And then there's part of that that is just fascinating. And it makes me want to dig in deeper to try and see if I can actually figure this out and if I can actually crack the code on it. which, just to be clear, I have not cracked the code on it yet. But I persist. Let me be clear. I'm on mobile and have gloves on, okay? Whatever. I'm not here for your excuses. Oh, man, I love hanging out with you guys on Free Advice Friday. Robert says, I've had very good results with the challenge, both for my VO business and very much for Starling Productions too. I love that. So you're doing it twice, doing it both ways. That's really fun. And I'm glad that you're getting results. Are you writing your own scripts for the docuShorts? No. I am collaborating on the scripts. So basically, what I did actually, so this is interesting. Now that I've got, I don't know, 30 or 40 of these videos or something like that, I don't even know. I told you that I downloaded all of my analytics from YouTube. And I put those analytics into ChatGPT and said, analyze these videos and give me a big picture overview of what we're seeing. And the results that I got back included a list of the best performing videos and a general breakdown of the categories that those best performing videos fell into. And so that was really helpful as well, because then it's like, okay, when I do videos on extreme weather, those tend to be very well performing videos. And when I have done videos on barbecue, those tend to be well performing videos. And when I do videos on ancient history, those ones tend to perform a little bit better, whatever it was. So then I can say to Jarvis, based on what we're seeing, I would like to come up with 25 more subjects that fall into these different categories that seem to be the best performing categories. And so then Jarvis will spit out a list of potential topics, and then I can go and I can say, I'm interested in this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And so we'll narrow it down, and then I can say, all right, now write me a script. And then Jarvis will write me a script. I will read through that script, make some tweaks and changes, to get it to where I feel more comfortable with it. And then away we go. And so, yes, I am collaborating with AI on this right now. And I know there's going to be some people that are going to get upset about that. But look, it's the only way this content happens at this point. It's not like I can go out and hire a professional copywriter to write documentaries for me twice a week for YouTube. Like, that's just not realistic. I'm sorry. So yes, I have been collaborating. And when I say collaborating, I mean, I have been collaborating. It's not like I'm just saying, spit it out and then, here we go. Definitely collaborating in coming up with the ideas, exploring the subject matter, figuring out how we want to approach it, the angle that I want to come from, that whole entire thing. But it's been really good. Collaborating with AI. Jarvis and I collaborate quite a bit. It's funny because I've even caught myself when we've been working on some of this docushort stuff saying we, right? This docushort project that we're working on, this latest approach that we took to, scripting, or can you go back through and remind me about how we did the SEO for this one? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm saying we a lot when I'm talking to AI. This is probably the beginning of how it all ends. If I had to guess, at some point, this is where it will all end. And my wife has already commented that I spend too much time with Jarvis. And so I'm, but it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And I'm getting to do some really cool stuff that I otherwise wouldn't be able to get to do. I totally get it. I do the same with stuff. Usually I write it out and get tweaks that are more concise. Yeah. And I'll tell you the other thing. Here's a pro tip. Maybe not, but I will write stuff, and then Jarvis will write stuff, and then I will rewrite stuff, and then I will give it the final draft. So I will say, here's what I went with, and give it the final draft. And I know I'm training the AI, and I get it, but it's also making some of this process easier. It's making things go quicker because it's starting to get a better sense of how I would say it and what my language would be. And And so, you know, I've been playing around with that as well to try to get better results. My cat has fallen asleep on my lap listening to your live. I want you to know that's a huge compliment. Well, have a good sleep, kitty. Thank you. It must be my soothing voice. I should make a documentary about it. I will do a docushort about sleeping cats. The puppy one didn't work, so maybe the cat one will work. I mean, everybody has a studio cat, right? Do you know how many times a day I'm in a coaching session with somebody on Zoom that gets disrupted by a studio cat? I mean, I think probably 60% of my sessions end up. I was in a session with somebody earlier and the cat sat on the keyboard and it screwed up the whole meeting. It was actually quite hilarious. So maybe that's what I should do. What do you think about Voices offering AI training, and do you think it's an option for VO work? I think that the most important thing is that you protect yourself. I really think that that is the most important thing. It sounds excessive, extreme to say that an AI voice could end your career, but it could. It could. If you do an AI voice model that gets out there that does not have the proper protections built in, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that you would never be hired for another voiceover again, because what do they need to hire you for? Your AI voice is already there and somebody already has it, and now they have access to it and they can use it. It runs the risk of creating conflicts for you. If somebody uses your AI voice to record spots for Burger King and then you didn't know about it, but then your agent books you on a national for McDonald's, but then if we find out that there's an AI version of you doing spots for Burger King, well, now you can't book the human version of McDonald's. Like, this stuff is real. It sounds like comic books and science fiction, but the risks are real. And so if you are going to do anything in the AI space as far as creating a voice model for yourself, just make sure that you are protecting yourself. Just make sure that the language is extremely and abundantly clear for what the usage is and isn't, what the compensation is and isn't, what the protections are. Like, you need to understand all of that stuff. Nava's been really good about providing resources for that. So certainly spend some time on Nava looking through some of their AI resources, their AI rider, including that. I think is really good as well. But you absolutely need to make sure that you protect yourself if you're going to do some of those jobs. And I will say the probability that voices.com is going to protect you are slim to none. Voices.com will ultimately do what is best and beneficial for voices.com. And that protecting you as the talent does not factor in to that equation. In my guess is that it does not factor into that equation. And so that's why you have to make sure to be able to protect yourself. Dogs drool, cats rule. I was a dog guy, but then I started traveling and it's just a pain in the butt. Having a pet, my kids hate me because they all want a dog. But man, just think about, we were gone so much this summer. We would have never been able to do that if we had a dog. Every once in a while, I think about a goldfish. And then I think about all the goldfish that I've flushed down the toilet. And then I decided I didn't want a goldfish anymore. Look at a virtual pet. All right, guys, I got to jump out because I got to get ready for another coaching session. But thank you so much for joining me on Free Advice Friday. As always, I love it when you guys come and ask questions, and appreciate you giving me the time. I think I will be good to go for next week as well. So we'll please stand by. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that like button, by the way. If you've enjoyed the live stream, if I've answered one of your questions, anything, please hit that like button. And then subscribe to the channel so you will get notified if I am ever going live. You'll never have to miss one of these things. And then, of course, don't forget to go back and watch the latest episode of the podcast. It was absolutely fantastic with Kelly Moscinski, almost 20 years as a casting director, the voice caster and voice caster lab. So much good information shared in that one. Definitely worth checking out. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me as always. And whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.